And today I wanted to talk about one of the sayings that we hear, and it's about nature as well. Often, nature, our Creator speaks to us through nature, and the one that kept coming up was the darkest hours just before the dawn, and so that's one of those sayings that's meant to offer hope to us as we go through trials, especially when it's a long lasting experience. And literally, that phrase describes the black of how black the night sky is when the first light dawns and it kind of seeps in. But that image of nature is used and often to show the ebb and the tide of flow of problems that we might experience, every human on earth. And so we probably heard that phrase spoken many times in different ways. And as we look back, we can see that there's a lot of truth to it. Some circumstances, whether that are things that are out of our control, like, as part of the DV Council, nobody plans to wake up and get beat up on any given day. And so that can create a very dark night, or the sudden loss of a family member can send us into a darkness. And so, but those experiences, they often bring us close to despair, and then it turns to something positive at some point. And so often those situations seem to be like worse as I'm in the midst of it, or when they're starting. But then things start to improve over time, and we do get to heal from our hurt and our traumas. And so this talk point has been going on. I was doing some research and went back to the 16th century. And I think that in whether you're reading the Bible or the Quran, the principles carry, some of our human principles carry. And so this particular saying, the darkest night, the darkest hours just before the dawn, for me, I try to stay in the dawn. So it can be 2:00 in the afternoon, and you call me and I'll say, well, good morning. And then the other person will say, well, why are you saying good morning? I'm like, because I really like to stay in the dawn. Nobody likes to stay in those dark hours, but it's really interesting how those types of phrases that sometimes originate in God's word or in the Quran, but the meaning behind it goes far beyond that. And it actually has a great deal to do with the pictures of our lives. It's a beautiful way. I think the Irish culture, they, in spite of hope under adverse circumstances, they say, remember that the darkest hour of all is the hour before day, before the sun comes up, before we can see the light again. And so I just wanted to start with something to open us up. And it's a principle that I think touches everyone's life. So Mia, if you can give our regards from our fearless leader.
So yes, hi everybody. My name is Mia Hall. I work with the county in the Office of Violence Prevention, and I provide back-end support to the San Diego County Domestic Violence Council. So on behalf of Claudia Grasso, our current president of the council, and Dr. Vanessa Rodriguez, our incoming council president, I'd like to welcome you all to this Faith Leaders meeting. And keep in mind that this meeting is to figure out how we can best support our congregants on identifying, supporting our families that are going through family violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, so that they can get the help and services that they need to make themselves whole again. So with that, I will turn it back over to Karen, and we'll go from there. And if you're new and you want to be on our mailing list, just place your name and your email in the chat, and I will add you to our growing list. So you'll receive all announcements regarding San Diego Domestic Violence Council, upcoming events that other organizations might be doing, and things of that nature. So thank you and welcome.
Yes, welcome everyone. So this afternoon, and we will be scheduling with our incoming president of the San Diego Domestic Violence Council so that she can come and visit the Faith Leaders Subcommittee and share her insight and her impactful the work that she does around domestic violence. And so we're looking forward to having her come and sharing with us in the near future. So our subject matter today is how to support families that are impacted by trauma. And that would be every family on the earth, because we all experience some type of trauma. But this gentleman has a powerful survivor story. He is now an advocate and a teacher. And he also is a rapper, and he shines the light so brightly when he walks into the room, and his compassion and his dedication is amazing. It's just remarkable, I would say. And so I was very taken when I first heard his story, him share. And I told him, you know what, I'm going to get you in front of as many people as I can in this generation, in this work. So I present to you, some may have heard his story before, and others it may be initial introduction. D'Angelo Singh. Go ahead, D'Angelo, share from your heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for having me here today. I'm privileged to be here, to be a voice. Anytime I can be a voice, it's a privilege, and I'm grateful for that. And just like we were talking about you're talking about the latest hour and day, and it's the darkest hours. Sometimes, every story that starts off, I was that young kid, that little boy, that scared boy, that would ask that question, why am I going through this? I don't understand, why am I seeing this, and I would talk to God, or I would pray, or I would just scared, because the violence was there, was present every day in my life, and of course I didn't get no answers back, right? I didn't understand, but I just had to go through it. It wasn't like I had a choice, right? Little children do not have a choice when they go through violence, or whatever kind of violence they go through, whether it's physical, sexual, mental. Children are the victims. They are the unfortunately, prisoners of a war zone in the home, right? That we say. And so I had to just deal with it and go through it. Luckily, thank God that I was protected, and that later on I was gonna get all those answers. That it was a bigger thing, a bigger story than just me, than just little boy. That everything I went through was all gonna fall into place later. It all was gonna come to who I am today, the man that I am today, the voice that I am today. And so I would definitely just kind of go into it. I was born and raised in El Centro. I don't know if anybody knows where that's at. Not a lot of people do. It's a very hot place. It's very hot, and the summertime, and cold in the wintertime, and it's just desert. Not a lot of opportunities there, not a lot of things going on. Very, very big on drugs and also sex trafficking, because we are very close to the border, like 5-10 minutes away from the border. And so a lot of drugs, and a lot of just emptiness, but very good people, and a lot of faith-based opportunities there. So it's very, very just so right now, so I lived there for a long time, but somehow I was raised in church. My father was a Christian, and my mother, but there was a thing that my father had a problem with, and like some people are very good people, but there's a problem, right, that we're not dealing with. So my father was had a problem of being abusive and controlling. And so my grandfather was an alcoholic, and he was also an abuser. And my father learned this. We call that learned behavior. This is where you learn it by watching and seeing. Something happened. I don't know what, but we ended up moving to Sacramento. And here comes this situation where we talk about seclusion, keeping away the victim from their parents, keeping, moving away everybody so he can basically focus on what he wants and his agenda, right? My father's agenda. So we moved to Sacramento for about several years, and the abuse became worse. And the abuse became worse because there was not, her parents weren't there to stop it. Pastors were not there to hold them accountable. And back then, keep in mind, right? Domestic violence wasn't or family violence or intimate violence, or what they call it today, wasn't diagnosed at that time. Wasn't like something where everybody was talking about. It's very hush hush. So there was no way that my father was able to get that help in church as a leader, as a worship leader, and even as they were becoming future pastors, right? So he had this, I can imagine he had this inner battle himself, fight inside himself, trying to do better, trying to be a Christian, but then he's fighting this jealousy issues. He's fighting these, all these things, right? All this stuff that he's dealing with and fighting inside, and didn't have that help or assistance to get through it, or knowledge to fight through it. So as we lived in Sacramento for a couple of years, it ended because my mother was going in and out of shelters at the time because the abuse was going on over there. So she would get abused and she would leave, and I would wonder why would she leave? Like, I didn't understand that. But finding out the women that leave, or the abuse, or whoever's being abused, they leave because they want their children to be safe, to keep, for that moment of abuse to stop, right? So my mom would go back. Well, I just want to go on some points. Really, I'm not going to go into everything, but one time as she got back, it was the 4th of July, and my father, they were fighting in the house, and I was like probably 9, and my brother was 4, and I had 2 other little brothers that were in the house while this was happening. So we hear a loud window break. We had a window that was really big, family room window. And my brother and I look at each other. We go around the corner, and they're laying with my mother was 8 months pregnant on the glass. She went through the window to get away from my father because my father was choking her, because my father wanted to know, where were you all those days that you were gone? So he was accusing her. So the only way she was able to get out through it was she went through the window. And there she lays with glass on her back, and I see her there in pain. And my dad grabs me and my other little brother, and he takes us running, leaving my mom behind and my 2 little brothers behind. They were just babies. And so my brother ends up 4 years old and a truck stop by himself. My father leaves him there so the police can get him. And then they find me in a taxi the next day. I was asleep. The taxi driver calls the police. My dad didn't show up. So they take me. So we reunite with my mom, and we go to a shelter. We end up going back home to South Central, and on and on. It was just an inconsistent situation in my life that me and my brothers would see. By the time now we have 2 more children that were born, making 6 children altogether, 2 girls. So it's 4 boys and 2 girls. And the abuse continued and continued. My mom would go to church. This is where the whole thing was. My mom would go to church and still was dealing with domestic violence. She would go to the shelters. She would go to the programs. We had an agency in El Centro, which is a domestic violence agency, and they would help her fill out paperwork. And then he would go to jail, and then he'd come out of jail, and then she would accept him back, and then he would, and I feel a lot of it had to do with, of course, her faith, not being able to file for divorce or leave him because, I feel like the pastor was saying, hey, you got to deal with that. You got to deal with that. It's your husband. You got to face it. You got to just trust God. You got to face it. So there was nobody to help them understand that, no, that's dangerous, that they need to get out of that relationship because it's abuse, it's violence. And how can we help you get out of that? Right. But, a lot of abusers and mothers and fathers sometimes, they don't know when to get out. They don't know how much damage the children are being impacted by this violence, by the violence they're looking at every day, every day. So one day, my father felt that he decided, he came back into our lives, he found us, of course, like all the time. And we went to San Diego in the station wagon that my mom had. So all of us were in the station wagon, right? In San Diego, sleeping in the car. I don't know why he did these things, right? He was sleeping in the car. And on the way back to El Centro, he pulled over, and what he had in mind is that he was going to take us off the cliff. That was his agenda. And I just saw him begin to beat my mom in front of us. Like he was hitting her in the face, hitting her, where kids were screaming, we were crying. I was like, no, 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 stop. And he was like, shut up. And, and I'm going to take you guys off this cliff, and I'm tired of, and he was going through these things, right? And I remember just saying, oh, God, help us, God, help us. I was praying, and I was again, this small little kid again, coming, saying, help us, don't let this happen. And after a while, I don't know what happened. He calmed down, and we ended up driving back home. But I know he was serious about doing it. These were things that he would do, and he would, he'd kidnap my brother. He took my brother Paul to Canada. He was 5 years old. He took him because he wanted to hurt my mom, right? That's what they do, to hurt. So he went to Canada. They hitchhiked to Canada from South Central, California desert. They hitchhiked from there all the way to Canada. And in Canada, it was snowing and there was a blizzard. So here you got two people walking in this blizzard with no jackets, just jeans and t-shirts. So there was already the police already knew, state troopers knew this was going on. So he would call my mom, and he would say, "You're never gonna see your son again," and he would hang up, and my mom would cry, and he would do this like through the whole week. And then finally, he just said, "You know what? That's it. It's not, my son's gonna come back. I'm gonna get him back." And so sure enough, they arrested him, and they bring my brother back, victim witness. We didn't have the money. My mother was on welfare with 6 children, and they helped us bring my brother back. These were things that would just go on and on, that I was exposed to, that my siblings were exposed to. And yet all this time we were going to church. I don't know how much the pastor knew about this. I don't know how much my mother would talk to him about it. I didn't know how to approach him, because I was just thinking, this is normal. This is what happens when you see this every day and you're used to it, and you think this becomes a normal thing. And I don't know how we never got taken away. At school, I definitely didn't pay attention. I couldn't. I was too worried. I was wondering if my mom was still alive when I got back home, after he kicked her in the stomach or punched her or threw her on the floor or put her in the closet or any of that stuff that he would do. And it was very difficult time, because I had God and my church, but yet I was exposed to this violence, this war zone. And it was just like two worlds. And it was two worlds. And my mother was also, she was a faith person. She went to church, and she would go, she was in a band at church, and she was involved in church, and this went on for about till I was 14 years old. And my father would not even allow my mother to go to the bathroom without him going with her. And I'm not talking about a bathroom like at a truck stop or somewhere, restaurant. I'm talking about in the house, in the home, in my grandma's house. And I would hear this constantly, things like that. And I would hear him screaming at night when my mom was gone. He would be like this guy that he would scream about, this jealous person he was about. So I learned all these things about jealousy and and I learned about, how horrible this person was, and my mom was, going around with guys, and he was just influencing us with these thoughts. And so one day, my father decided to get back in the home again. They married, divorced, remarried, and divorced. So we learned inconsistency, things like that. And so the last time my father got in, I was about 14, going on 15. And he came back into the house. He manipulated my mother again. And I was angry. I was done. I was tired of it. And he comes into the house, and he stops her from going to church. So the pastor sends these men on a Saturday, the day before before Easter, and he sends these men to go see what's going on. It was a moment for her to get out of it, but instead, my father manipulated her again and told her, "We're going to go to church the next day," and the men left. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't. So I was angry. I got in a fight with my mom, and I said, "How could you put us through this? I'm tired of this. You always, go back to my father. Like, I don't want to see this abuse. You don't understand." And she was just be like, I don't know what you want me to do. I can't get rid of him. I can't shake him off. I can't. He's always like looking for us, and and he's trying to do better. And I guess she finally realized. That's how it stayed. We didn't talk after that. Sunday came, Easter morning. March 26, 1989, Easter morning. My father woke up. They woke up. They were getting ready for church and everything. I went to go throw the newspaper. And when I came back from throwing the paper, I closed the door, and right away, I felt that ugly feeling again that I always feel when they're fighting. And so I said, something's wrong. And I could hear my mother screaming, fighting, and throwing things in the room on the right-hand side in the hallway, and where the hallway's at, and the door was closed, and my baby sister that was 3 months old was in that room. So I see my brothers over here sitting down on the sofa, and my sister, and they're scared, right? So I run to the phone. I go, "I'm going to call police." And as I'm going to call the police, my mom screams out my name. I've never heard her do that. And so I run to the room. I go, "I'm just going to open the door. He's going to get mad at me like always, and then yell at me, and then they close the door." Well, I couldn't open the door. I was struggling. For some reason, I ended up pushing the door in. When I opened the door flew open. There was blood on the walls. There was blood on the bed. My father stabbed her 15 times with a kitchen knife. And it was like a movie. It was like a movie. It was like I froze. I couldn't believe what a 14-year-old was just watching and had just experienced. And 2 children, my brothers, were standing by the bed watching this. And my little sister was back behind me watching this, little baby. And my other 2 brothers, and my other brother and sister and my 2 little brothers, and they're seeing this. This is all coming in. This is all coming in. And my mother's on the bed, and my father on top of her, and he's hitting her. And I snap out of it, and I run to the crib, and I'm struggling trying to get my sister out, 3-month baby. I'm trying to get her because I'm scared that he's going to kill us, right? Because what happens all the time is the children do not survive it. So I grab my little sister, and I'm sorry. I grab my little sister, and I get the kids out, the rest of them, and we run out the house, and I'm thinking, we're out. We're safe. Now I'm thinking about going back and saving my mom. Now I'm about to go running, but the police arrive, and they grab me and they hold me back. And I'm screaming at them. My mom's in there. My mom is, and she's gonna die. You gotta help her. And they were like, "I'm sorry, we have to wait for backup. Let me go." And I wanted to run in and save her. And they took me next door where the kids were at, next door neighbor, and I had to wait there. And I guess I didn't see them take my mom into the paramedics, took her in the ambulance. They put her in there. They arrested my dad. And I'm waiting, and I'm outside, And I remember this moment, and I'm praying to God outside, and I'm saying, God, like, I know everything's gonna be okay, you know? And all of a sudden, we go to the police station. My uncle takes us, and he takes us there, and the police officer comes to my uncle and he tells him some news, and he starts crying. And then my uncle comes and tells us, me and my little brother, he says, I'm sorry, your mom didn't make it. She's dead. She's gone. And it didn't hit me. So now my mom's gone, my dad's in prison, and there's 6 kids, and we're about to go into a home, it's called Los Niños, and my uncle takes us in. We end up living with him and 3 other little girls, and it was very difficult because everything that we went through, and then to end that way. And I hear later that my mom was actually trying to leave and move to Philadelphia because my mom's sister and uncle had a church up there. They were pastoring. And the pastor just told her, you just got to stay here. You got to deal with it. You shouldn't go, just face it. And I was angry. I was angry at that because I was like, my mom would still be alive right now. So, it's something that, of course, we didn't have. The pastors sometimes don't have that equipment. They're not equipped to know how to deal with domestic violence, or nobody wants to talk about it. If nobody wants to, bring it to attention, because it's an ugly thing to talk about. It's something that people are scared to talk about, especially in faith-based. For some reason, it's like, okay, we rely on God, and we let God heal us, which he does, right? But during the time, just because someone goes to church, becomes a member of the church, a member of the faith, whatever faith they get into, doesn't mean that everything's okay at home. There's still a lot of things happening at home. There's still things that need to be fixed, and they need assistance, and they need knowledge, and they need, the father needs to go to anger management classes, or the mother needs to go to classes, or the single mother needs to go to these classes, and so to learn about domestic violence, to learn about what can happen if you stay in an abusive relationship, and how the drastic effect on children. I mean, that's a part of that. The drastic part of children, that what happens to their brain, the effects of it, what happens to them mentally, physically, how they can't function in life, how most of them are in prison doing time for murder, how some of them are still in society trying to get through their post-traumatic stress, trying to get through their anger, trying to get through they're just confused. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have anybody to help them. They don't have anybody to go to. They don't know how to. And even though we have all these programs out there, some of them, these are men that don't really, they're not taught to go look for help. And they're taught to just deal with this. So now you got 2 young couples that are married, and guess what happens? Now there's abuse again going on. And it goes on and it goes on, especially when we had the pandemic. How much domestic violence was going on there? A lot. Children couldn't go to school. They had to face something they probably weren't used to seeing. Women couldn't go to work. Now it's full abuse every day. So it's this thing where we ask and say, well, how can we help them understand about domestic violence? How can we prevent from what happened to my mother? How can we help men like my dad? I started working at a domestic violence agency. I was there for like 10 years. And I taught anger management class. I taught battery treatment programs. I taught teen violence prevention programs. I worked with youth. I did all these things, and I learned a lot. And yes, domestic violence is not something where you can just go up to the person and say, hey, you need to leave him. You need to leave her. It's really difficult because they still love that person, or they still feel they can't be without that person. So the way you have to basically do it is that you have to show that support. And I thought, well, maybe churches can just kind of provide this information, have it there. on the church, right? Have it there, have some classes, some, undercover classes, I'm talking about undercover, like, hey, we're just gonna have a class today about domestic violence and family and how to live families, how to have healthy relationships. And I think that itself will bring awareness. Awareness is very powerful. We bring awareness as our faith. We bring awareness every day in what we do as advocates. We bring awareness because we understand that awareness is powerful. We understand that awareness brings knowledge and also gives people opportunities to get out of situations that need to get out of or fix the things they need to fix in life. So when we bring awareness into our churches, I think that that's what's going to really begin to help these men and women to realize, you know what, this is hurting my children. I'm destroying my children because my children are going to have to need medication. They're going to commit suicide. I mean, the percentages are really high with children that affects on domestic violence, and not just even mentally, physically. My father, I believe he, not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure he has schizophrenia. My father was, or either that, or he would talk to himself, he would laugh and things like that. And it was very uncomfortable being around him. I really did not like my father. It was very uncomfortable. I didn't know what a father was like. I didn't have that ability to understand what a father is. And we grew up with these relatives for several years. And we had to go with my aunt and uncle. They left their church in Philadelphia. They came and took us in. They had 3 girls as well. And we lived there until we all left. But there was no counseling. I mean, very little counseling. I mean, we just kind of slipped through the cracks, and we grew up, and I grew up angry. I grew up with anger, bitterness. Even though I was in church, I relied on God. I prayed to God. I did everything, but I was still angry inside. I'm still bitter. I still couldn't figure out why I had post-traumatic stress, why I had this thing. I didn't understand how to get rid of it, how to get help. And I struggled with for many years. I lost relationships. I wasn't physically violent, but I was verbally violent because of my anger. Said things I shouldn't have said. I didn't, just blaming everybody for things. And that's how my life was for so many years. I have 2 children, and they didn't see none of that, but it was really just really sad because I couldn't fix myself either, or my brothers and sisters that are struggling right now. They're good. Thank God that none of them are drug addicts, alcoholics, or dead, or in a mental institution, because those are the statistics that we be facing for prison for life. And none of them, they're all go to church, but there's still the effects there because I can see it. My brother struggles with anger still. He struggles with his mentality and how he thinks, and also I struggle a little bit with, I'm good, I'm better now. I don't have the anger no more. That's all. I grew out of all that stuff. I'm doing better now. I'm well, but I still struggle mentally. I can't focus sometimes. There's a lot of things. These are long-term effects that children go through. And so all that, all that whole, I mean, there's more stuff I didn't share. I mean, there's a lot of things I didn't share, drastic stuff that happened, but it was a long journey. And today my mother was 35 years old. 35. Very young woman. Loved church, loved her faith, loved God, faithful, everything. And she said, that's it. I'm not doing this no more that Sunday. And she says, I'm done with you. And looking back, that's probably wasn't the safest thing to do, because a lot of times in order to leave, you have to do it in a different way, where the perpetrator, the abuser, doesn't know you're leaving, right? Because then you get confrontation. And that moment, she acted out of impulse, right? Because she was trying to go to church and he wasn't letting her. And she said, that's it. She was actually going to college. She was going to help women like herself. She was going to begin to help women. And she did. She impacted lives. And this is where I come in. This is where it was birthed in me. I'm the only one out of 6 children to do what I do. And this is how I was birthed. Her. I said, I'm going to finish what she didn't finish. And I'm her voice. I'm my mother's voice everywhere I go. And I said, God, I want to go further. I want to go everywhere. I want to speak everywhere, God. But I know that this when the time comes, you're going to do that. And I've done a lot of it for many years, 20 plus years. But I said, you know what? I came to San Diego. Why? Because I want to go beyond that. I want to go now bigger. I want to go everywhere and speak and help people and help bring awareness. And I said, and this is why, I said, Mom, I'm going to finish what you didn't finish. And my children know what I do. And my daughter's like, you know what, Dad, if you don't finish anything, I will take over for you. And I say, you don't have to do this, sweetheart. This is what I chose to do. And she's like, no, I seen what you do. And she's gone with me speaking. So it's been a very, very sweet but bittersweet journey. But again, without God, I don't know how I would have made it. And people around me. So again, it's so important to bring that awareness, and especially in the house of God, in our churches, because we want our congregation to be healthy. We want them to be prosperous. We want our children to have the opportunity to grow up with healthy mentalities, healthy emotions, and be able to concentrate on be able to live for God, right? Or to be part of the church, to be able to get involved in the church, and men and women to be able to exceed in what their calling is in the churches or whatever church you're going to, and whatever religion you're involved in. So that's my story. And I know there's not very many men that can bring something like this, because a lot of men don't want to talk about it. But for some reason, I don't know how I was chosen to do that.
Wow.
And so this is where I'm at now. And I said, God, I'm ready to go anywhere you take me to speak.
Wow. Wow. D'Angelo, you are an amazing gift, and you paid a heavy price to have that story, but to be able to stand strong. And so I'm sure there's a few questions brewing, but I wanted to, you mentioned something about a couple things because we don't typically talk about domestic violence from the pulpit or whatever it's called,
Right.
that posture in the faith space, whether it's at a mosque or or at a Baptist church or Protestant church or Jewish rabbis. I don't think we're talking about it like it should be, because we know it's going on. The evidence is presented itself. So I wanted to ask you, one, how long have you, and how long did it take for you to forgive your father?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Half of my life.
Mm.
Yeah, half of my life. It took a long time. Let me see. It probably about, maybe to fully forgive him, was probably about maybe over 10 years ago. A little over 10 years ago, because I mean, even though I was doing this, it didn't mean that I was still able to let go, because I thought it was something personal for me to hold on to. It was my anger. It was my my ability to if I don't want to forgive him. But then when I understood what forgiveness was, and understood how it's important to forgive, it's powerful, so I can move on. And I've seen how much I lost in my life. I paid a heavy price that a lot of kids are going to pay as adults, because it's something that it's in there. It's in there. And so I paid a heavy price. So yeah, it took me a while. And then I began to, little by little, forgive him, little by little. And then I yeah, it took me a while. And I just said, you know what? My father was a victim too.
Mm,
He was a victim too. And I had
yeah.
to see it that way. Just like, and it's weird, it's crazy, Karen, because God put me smack in the middle of men that were just like my father, and I was teaching them for years, and women like my mother, and children like us. And I was put there to understand and to see and to help them. And that also, working for domestic violence also gave me that assistance to forgive and to understand, to learn a lot about what I went through. And again, powerful thing of awareness,
Yeah.
But yeah, it took a while.
You have a powerful survivor story, and there's a reason why you survived all that, so that you can turn around and help others. But I think that I would love to hear from some of the faith leaders, but we gotta, here's one good thing, and then I'm gonna stop and open up for questions. But the good thing now, in the year 2023, we do have DV services that are available. And
Right,
so that's why
right.
we're promoting them. And that's why we're in the community trying to make sure that the faith leaders know that
Yes,
that
yes.
we got to stop hiding behind the church. And it's not if it's going on in this church, it's when. When is it going on? And I have too many sisters that I know in my current church that have survived this.
Hmm.
And but we're not talking about it enough. I like that underground thing you said. We should do some underground trainings and stuff like that. I love that idea. But there are some
Yeah.
tools that we're working on. So I want to invite you to join the faith committee for the DB Council. Because
Yes,
you bring a lot
yes.
of, yes. So I want to ask that, but I know some questions, and I wanted to just open it up. And you can, I don't know if there's any in the chat, but you can definitely just go ahead and go off mute and ask D'Angelo whatever it is that you would like to hear from him.
Yes, please bring any questions. I definitely feel free to ask any questions.
Thank
I
you,
would like to
D'Angelo.
know today, being that there's so many services that are available, being that you are a pastor in the sense that you are, spiritually guiding others, what would be some ways that you would think would be most helpful in responding to someone who is experiencing domestic violence today?
Wow. Uh, I think one of the things that we have that's powerful is that we're able to pray for people. You know, uh, that's one thing. The other, I mean, that's a powerful thing, to pray for them so they're able to come to some understanding, and that they're able to realize what they're going through and what they're dealing with. Sometimes they're blinded. The other thing is, again, we can't force them, but again, bringing that awareness to them, like, hey, there's this domestic violence agency here just in case, or I'm here for you. I'm here for you anytime. Anything you need, I'll go with you. I'll go to the agency. I will help you fill out paperwork. Things like that. Just the support, just showing the support. The other thing you don't want to go is never confront the abuser, because that can be very dangerous, right?
Yeah.
It's really life threatening. Never do that. But I think, like I said, support and prayer, and just letting them know that, just talking to them and asking them questions that, hey, how can I help you? How can, what is it that you feel that you still feel like you need to stay here? Is it, sometimes there's so many reasons: fear, religion, faith. It's also, maybe how they were raised. A lot of it has to do with, because they don't have the money, and they're used to living a certain lifestyle, or because they're from another country and they are the guy has this more power over it, like, hey, if you leave, but there's a lot of laws that protect people like that. They just don't know that, right? And just also letting them know, hey, if you decide, this is what you can do. Leave. You can leave. Get a bag of things, like your paperwork, not like furniture and like that. Just your little bag with your important paperwork, documents, medicines, or anything that you can duplicate. And you could leave them at my house in case you ever have to leave at night, midnight. They say leave when the person's asleep, or or not home. And sheriff's departments, police departments, they will assist, and they can go to a sheriff department or a police department. And even at night, they're open. There's certain places. And so again, just being able to be supportive with them, letting them know options. That's all they need to know. Because they're closed up, because there's a lot of fear, a lot of stuff going on. They can't see outside that, right? So here you come and you show them all these options and let them know, hey, how about the children? Children suffering from this as well. Things like that. But I hope that kind of answers a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? And I'm just thankful for you. When I listened to your testimony, it just really touched my heart. Just knowing that, I know that was, I just feel God's calling on your life, with regard to addressing domestic violence, because you have that direct experience. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your testimony with us today. And I just pray that God just He's already blessed you. He's already blessed you, and He's already
Yes,
given
yes.
you a voice to share with the world. And I'm just thankful that you shared it with us today.
Yes, we are.
Thank you so
I know
much. Yes.
Pastor Gerald, I think Pastor Brown had a question or comment.
Yeah.
I want to say, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank
Brother
you.
D'Angelo, for having the courage, listening to the Spirit of God, for surviving. I want to thank you for raising your kids in a place where they don't have to live in fear. I would,
Yes.
all of us have a story. And I can tell you that I went into foster care for almost something similar there.
Yes.
And as a pastor today, I would say that I would encourage other faith leaders, rabbis, imams, to not
Yes.
hide domestic violence up under the carpet, but rather to speak to it from the pulpit that God has given us to speak to it from. I know that in
Yes.
some religions, we have taken this kind of male-centric view. But if we're really real with one another, the church, especially the Black church, has been 80% to 90% women in that church. Women have contributed by tithes and offerings, by singing, by doing everything in the church that needed to be done. And oftentimes the pastor, when it came to men, looked the other way. And our teaching has not always been to that place where we say, no, get out. I know that I have, because I watched my mother be abused. I know that I have, because I went to foster care very early on. And so we have to encourage one another to come out and to give our testimony as you've given, to give it in the church, to give it in the mosque, to give it in the synagogue. And the pastor, male or female, has to stand on solid ground and say that we will not tolerate that in the church. There is no place for domestic violence in the church of the living God. We have to turn around and tell sisters, as I've told sisters before, you need to leave. And how can we help you to get out? We want the family to stay together. The Bible says, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. We also recognize the fact that people are killing each other. People have mental health issues. In my church, I have a psychologist who just happened to be my psychologist because I was going through grief counseling with her. And she said, I'm going to come to your church, Pastor. And I know that there are mental health issues. There are other mental health issues in there beside from me, all right, that are there. And I brought it out into the open so that now people can deal with it. One of the things that the enemy of our minds and of our hearts, and if you believe in Satan, tries to do is tries to keep things hidden so that nobody will find out. But the more that you expose it, the more it is that people will get help. I know that myself and Bishop Benson, his wife, as well, have been focusing on mental health as we go throughout the congregation, understanding that everyone goes through stress. People have gone through probably the worst time of their life throughout the pandemic. And while we may have seen a decrease or increase, I don't know which one, but we know that people have, we have found out that people really do have mental health issues. And so we have to address those and be open about it. Any lady or gentleman that comes to me and says that they're being abused, well, first of all, they know that I am connected with law enforcement and I will take in what they say. But if it is an abuse to such where they are being physically abused, the children are being abused, we're going to stop that right now. Right now, I think that more pastors have to take that place. I think that the pastors, out listening to your story, sent the brothers out there. But we have to send people out that are wise, that can recognize the signs, that understand what's going on with domestic violence, with mental health, understand that, okay? And we have to do more than just say, I'm going to leave you here, sister, but I'm going to leave somebody outside that's going to be out there to take care of you and the family. So your story hit home with me. But thank God, as has already been said, that you are here, you have survived, your siblings have survived, and that you're able to give this message today, because this is a message that should not only come to us, but I invite you to my church, to Mount Moriah, to give that message. And we're going to do that, okay? I want to talk about it. We have first Sunday is usually our communion Sunday. But I really want people to commune with God and to understand, to truly understand that we are, in fact, our brothers and our sisters' keepers, and that we must take care of one another. It's not a large church, but it's a church where one can tell 10 and 10 can tell 10,000.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we need to do. And so I commend you for your bravery. I commend you for the message that you're giving. I commend you for realizing that God is still in control. He has not left you. He has not forsaken you. Can't talk about what everybody else has done. And yes, we forgive. We don't forget. And we should do something with that which we remember.
And it's so crazy because I've been given words before and several times already that it said that my father was actually going to see me and was going to be convicted. And I don't know how that's going to happen, right? I don't know how, but you know, I've been into prisons. I've been to prisons and spoken many times in jails and stuff like that. But that's the next powerful thing is to be able to maybe face my father. And if not, that's okay. But it's the next chapter. People ask me, have you talked to your father? Have you spoken to him? I said, well, I haven't, because it's been so long that I've been trying to get through it. But, you know, now that I've got through it, I'm open to it. I'm open to speaking to him. And so it's a forgiveness. And the other thing too is, if, like you were talking about earlier, if we don't tolerate sin in the church, right? And we talk about these different topics, no matter what religion it is, we don't tolerate certain things, then we should not tolerate violence, because it goes against God. And that's the thing where we have to be open to, because we'll talk about don't do this and don't do that, but yet the woman at the house is getting abused or is being controlled. And that's not of God to control. You know, I come from that type of Hispanic background where it's machismo and men control, and my dad, I saw that in him. And so again, we can talk about this on the pulpits, and we can say it a certain way that can even as a sermon and talk about how we can say, hey, you know, this is not right. This is what we need to do with our families, with our women, respect them, love them, our husbands, give them their place, give them her place, give them his place. And we need to make sure, if you want a healthy family, control is not going to be healthy family. It's not going to, it's about influence. I tell people influence is more greater and powerful than control. It's influence. You influence your family, you teach them, and you teach your children, you influence, they watch how a dad can be peaceful in the home, how he can deal with stress, and how he can handle family matters, and how he can sit down and talk to his wife. That's the most greatest thing that you can give your boys and your daughters than money. Is them to see and being a man of God. If you're a leader in the church, my God, you are greater accountable.
Yes.
As a leader, as us as leaders, we're greater accountable.
Yes.
For making sure our homes are safe.
Yes. I don't want to cut you off, D'Angelo. I know we have.
I'm sorry, Pastor. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, I wanted to say, Pastor Brown, that I'm going to connect you and Angelo, and I will certainly accompany him when he comes to your church. And I want to ask everyone else in the room, can we come to your church too? So, because D'Angelo's open and ready, and we got to open this up. And that's part of, you were talking to our purpose and our vision and our mission of this faith community. So thank you so much.
Yes, like I said, I mean, getting back to speaking in high schools, and I mean, I have years of just working with youth, speaking at high schools, and being on the youth probation, committee things. So I miss all that, man. I'm like, man, God, I'm ready to get back out there again and start reaching these, raise an army of young people to fight in these last days.
Yes, Susie has had her hand up for a little bit, so Susie, go right ahead.
Again, D'Angelo, thank you for sharing your story. I
Thank you,
admire your courage for being able to speak to something that I can't imagine how difficult it is. What I'd like to ask is any recommendations, and this is out there to everyone. What can we do in our church to help people feel safe? My colleague Lori Reynolds and I are both go to Bethlehem Lutheran, and we're Stephen ministers there. And what can we do to help people feel safe? I mean, I know build trust and build relationships. Anything else that you recommend so that they might feel safe in coming to us for help? And we do, we try to maintain all of the contacts. I've been writing down everything that you guys have put in there,
right?
So that we know who to call if someone comes to us. But first they have to feel safe in coming to us. That, that if they talk to us, it's not going to make the situation worse. So anyone, what kind of recommendations do you have?
So that's a great question. D'Angelo, please, can I address this first, and then we'll go from, because Susie, that's why we're here. That's the whole purpose, that we set up the faith committee subcommittee, and we have a team that they're ready to embrace. We're ready to come and equip your church for those calls. Okay. But I think it's going to start best when it comes from someone else. And by sharing the story, like D'Angelo can share his story, I can share my story, and then that opens up the space and makes it a safe place. And then we'll give you the tools. We even had one of the first ladies that offered to come in and do counseling training. You don't have to go to school and get a degree to be a counselor in certain situations, but she's offered to come to different churches, and once your church identifies, looks like you're the go-to person, Susie, then we
Gloria
come,
and me,
and Gloria, and so we come. That's our whole thing. We want to equip you. We want to give you resources. We want to connect you to the service providers, but we got to start by opening up that conversation, and it sometimes it comes from someone like Angelo.
So should I follow up with you, Karen? And
yes,
okay, we'll do.
And I think
I'm sorry,
to answer Oh, no, that's fine. To answer your question, I was thinking about you saying, I just felt like this is something that came to mind, is that, yes, we spoke about trust and all that. I think that people come to these types of things when you open a door of an invitement, when you invite them, like, right? So if let's just say if they're going through abuse, so you bring this into your program and you say, hey, we are for this, we're supporting this, then it gives them a little bit more of an easier to say, okay, you know what, wow, they're for this. Like, I can, then one might even just volunteer that's being abused,
Right.
and then all of a sudden her life has changed, right? There's so many women that back home when I would speak a lot, they would come up to me and say, oh my God, my sister left her relationship because she heard you speak somewhere. My aunt stopped going. It was a life and threat situation. So when I was hearing these things, it wasn't for me to feel good. It was like God was telling me, like, confirmation. You're doing impact.
Right.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
I think just inviting them, being invited with them about that, what you want to do, would be really great. With
Thank
Karen
you.
and all that. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
Susie,
Karen.
we can kind of coach you in how to even present it, because
Okay.
like we say, people are hiding. We're hide behind the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
got to open it up in a way that they feel comfortable, because we want to help them. We want to
And
make sure.
and we do understand that it's not easy to leave a situation like that. As you said,
Right.
D'Angelo, they're scared. They may not have resources. They know what they're in.
Mhm.
If they walk away, they don't know what it's not easy.
It's scary both
yeah,
ways, right? But we want to also bring awareness on the children, the
right.
effects on children, because parents, if they see that, that also gives them more of a motivation to leave if they understand the effects. They don't understand the effects. They don't know what can happen to them 4 years from now, medication they got to be put on, depression, suicide, So just also what's important is not just the women and the men, but the children, that we get them into a program to help them get better and to be, to help them
Right.
get back on track, to be positive, citizens of society, functioning.
Lori, I saw your hand earlier. Lori and I, as I said, we both go to Bethlehem. Did I miss anything? Did you want to ask anything else?
No, I just wanted to ask in general, you were talking about children. What would have been helpful to you as a child?
What was helpful?
From our, you said you went to church and,
Yeah.
it was just kind of a separate story.
Yeah.
What would be useful for us to keep in mind? How do we identify those kids, and what do they need from us?
Sometimes, like even like, I think a lot of churches have Bible studies, they have youth groups, they have Sunday schools, but they're not looking for those things, because you're just there for one purpose. But when you begin to understand what you're looking for, or they open up with certain words, you capture those words, you capture the lingo, then you start to say, okay, something here is needed with this young kid, this young girl. You start to see their behavior, you see how they start moving, how they, so again, when you get equipped, you start to realize what to look at. So for me, it was like, again, my church was not equipped. If I go to pastor, be like, pastor, I had this nightmare, my dad killed my mom. I literally these were warnings, and I tried to tell people, and no one listened to me. I told my mom the dream that, and I tried to tell her, my dad told me he's going to kill you. No one listened. And that was the sad part about it. And so pastor would be like, well, maybe you eat too much pizza at night, or, this type of thing. And so these kids, they're going through stress and intense trauma, and they don't know what to do. So again, I mean, yeah, it's difficult, because you want to see how can I help them. They're going through trauma. That means that's going to have to be some more stuff they got to put in there. I mean, the best thing to do is train your staff. I mean, it's worth it. It's worth to train, to get people. Because it's something that. So either that, yeah, I would say what helped me, of course, was, the only thing I could tell you was God, because I went to church. even though I didn't get nobody to help me out in other ways, it was just the preaching, the faith, and they got me through it.
Wow.
So church, a lot. It's powerful.
Yeah. This is pretty amazing.
Aaron, can I share that in the chat box, I added trauma-informed churches.org.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
I think it's a national organization, but I really like the perspective of a church being trauma-informed and like D'Angelo said, having your eyes open, that you're not just delivering one thing, a Bible study, but your church is open to look at families through that lens.
Yeah. Yes. But God, I mean, God loves his church. It's important to him that his people, not just unsaved people that don't know God, they're important too. But then it's no good if his own people are starving. It's not good that if his own people are not healthy or not good. They're crying, they're in darkness, and so one thing is becoming part of the faith, another thing is delivering them from what's really going on behind doors that no one knows.
Yes. And that's what we're here for. That's why we formed this committee, so that we can get to the faith community, so that we can educate and prepare and equip and do trainings. Every one of there's the trauma informed. I mean, the county through the Domestic Violence Council, we can offer a myriad of trainings to faith leaders, so to prepare you, to equip you, and then we'll stand beside you, and we'll do the implementation things, and so we're ready. So I'm excited that we have 2 churches on board that we're gonna at least, and Pastor Brown, you can tell all your other, after we go to your church, then you can go ahead and share that when you go to those big meetings, big faith leader meeters.
Brother Yusuf has a question.
Yes. That's
Hello, everybody, and wonderful discussion, and thank you for having me. I just really had a statement about, I'm glad we talked about the county and its resources, but also IVAT, for violence and trauma. As a matter of fact, there's a seminar coming up, an annual seminar coming up with IVAT, International for Violence and Trauma, and I'm sure some of us that are on this call are familiar with or connected with IVAT, but also on the male specific question of violence, domestic violence. Of course, I had domestic violence in my background growing up, but here in San Diego County, not San Diego County, in Orange County, we have what's called FatherCon, and FatherCon is a male-centered, try to heal the heart in the culture of malehood when it comes to toxic male identity, like our speaker was talking about. So that's another resource of men who look at it from a faith perspective on dealing with men in their trauma and acting out in their violence. So I'll put my information in the chat for those who don't know me, and if you want any more information on these kind of things, please reach out to me as well. Thank you, and thank you for having me here. I'm driving, so I'm gonna go back off camera, but thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I like to know more about that. Definitely. FatherCon.
Yeah, awesome. This is some good stuff right here. He's pleased. He's pleased with us. We're becoming like a movement and so needed. So I really appreciate. Any other closing words?
Hi, Karen. Monica Ball from Uplift, and we serve as Rock Church Homeless Ministry. As we all know, domestic violence is one of the major causes of homelessness for women and children. Primarily, I myself went through domestic violence as a kid. Cops coming to pick us up. We thought we were on Adam 12, and really it was not something that was fun or funny when your parents are fighting and you're in between them.
Oh, no.
And then experienced twice as an adult. The divorce that I most recently went through, as soon as it started, I was like, no, I'm out. I've been through this. I know how this goes. This is not gonna get better. And so what I would love is some kind of, the group that sent me your way was Community Solutions, and I love them, but they don't actually have the capacity to come pick up, or any shelter capacity or locations. So when we have folks inquiring who are ready to make the escape, if you will, I don't really have anywhere to send them. So that would be super helpful, I think, for all faith leaders, is if you've got congregants who are in a situation where they literally need to get out now, what would be our next step to help them with that? Who could we turn them over to? And I'm not asking for an answer to that right now. I'm just suggesting that that would be really helpful for those of us who are trying to equip pastors all over town for when folks come and, you know, make that really painful confession, like, I'm getting beat up at home and I need to get me and the kids out. Then what? And so if the county's got a list of resources, something of that nature, that would be really helpful. If we need to help get something like that set up, you know, Rock, we bought that strip club in Point Loma, and we were gonna turn it into a human trafficking shelter.
Right.
And we decided against that, but it's sitting empty. And the police have asked us if they could use it as like a secret drop off at night for domestic violence, that kind of thing. So, you know, I'm here to help, and I'm also here to receive help.
Absolutely.
So, a two-way street here, and I think we can really make some more action-based answers happen as a faith community. This really is our job. I mean, D'Angelo, you're right. I mean, this is our job. And when people are hurting, being hurt and hurting, it's not good for the abuser to let it go on either. That was one of the reasons I brought out most recently.
Well, once you see people, once abusers,
I'm not gonna let you do that. I'm gonna get out of the way.
Right.
Okay.
And once
Monica,
abusers
can you make
see
sure?
these things, they start to back off. They just need to see that people are getting involved. If they don't see nobody getting involved, that's more for them to keep doing it. So once they see it, they'll see, hey, your church is backing you up. Like, oh, dang, I better, you know, and it's not like we're trying to destroy the person, or we want to help them too, right? Like, if we want to, like, hey, you know, you can still function as a family, but right now you can't. Right now you need to, you know, separate, get some help, go to classes, and then come back and reunite, and have the pastor do that, whoever the church is, have them, assist them in getting back eventually, right? Because the main thing is safety, and then after that, the help, and then reunite it if that's what they decide to do. And so, it definitely is something that we definitely need to do that, and right.
Well,
Thank you.
and I
Sorry
get
about that.
that, you know, it's there's safety for all. So that's one of the reasons domestic violence centers shelters are a challenge, because you can't have somebody be endangering others if they reveal their location, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I know there are people smarter than me who can help figure this out, and the resources of the county are vastly greater than, you know, the Rock Church. But if we could really kind of stay together on this for maybe a year and really get some real answers, so that this county really can become a safe county, and I think that would just be good for all parties. It just would.
Yes, thank you, Monica. And we do have resources. If you can drop, we just want to make sure if you can drop your email in the chat real quick, then we'll email out the resource. There's one sheet, it's in Spanish and English. And also we have our committee, Shalyn, created a QR code. Is that it? Or QB, whatever those little things. It's a business card size scanner that you can, what is that? Is it the QR code? Yeah, you just scan over it and it pops up that whole one sheet with all the shelters, all the service providers, the therapy. And so that's kind of one of our hidden jewels that we've developed this past year. And so we can get some of those to you as well, Monica. I'll be happy to come over where you are, but we'd love for you to continue to keep coming to our monthly meeting. We do meet on the third Thursday of every month. We typically toggle the time between 10 a.m. and then some days are 2 p.m.
Okay.
Just to try to get more.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so we welcome you here. I thank you for being present today. This was really informative. I want to see if there's any more. We're a little bit over time, and I just don't
Yeah.
want to respect everyone else's
Thanks,
time.
everybody. Okay, I'll hop
So,
off now. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, everybody. I
thank you.
appreciate you guys. Thank you.
This was great today. This is one of our best meetings. So I have to, we're really happy that the faith leaders are showing up and that we're gonna be able to help more families. Because
Yeah.
we're ready. We have the tools. We just need to get together to do this work
And if
together.
we have the tools and we don't do anything with the tools, then God will question us, says, why do I give you the tools if you're not using the tools I gave you
Yeah,
to help
yeah.
others,
Yeah.
right? That's, yeah, so. All right.
Awesome. Great job,
Sounds
everyone.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope that your questions got answered. If not, shoot me an email, everyone who still has an outstanding question, and we'll.
Yeah,
we'll
if you want to
do
get a hold of me as well, I have my email, or I can give my information to Karen, or however you can contact me as well.
Yes.
And then, I don't know, I can leave you my number or however in the chat. I don't know how, whatever helps.
I can send it out with your permission. I can send it out, D'Angelo.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you so
All right.
much. Appreciate it,
Thank
guys.
you.
God bless you all.
Blessings to everyone. Thanks so much. We'll see you next month.
All right.
If
God
not
bless you.
sooner. Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.